Yeah, you sound great.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So I was just reading a little bit about you. From Utica. Is
Uh-huh.
that how you know Paul? Because you're from Utica?
No, funny thing is, I met Paul at a Firewolves game, and I saw them. They were all at the game, and they had the Yeti jerseys on. And I mentioned to him one day after a game, and hey, I'm from Utica, and this, that, and the other, and we just connected, and that's how it all happened. He had no clue I was from Utica.
That's hilarious. It's funny how this all works out too, because I mean, the only reason I knew him is because I played college lacrosse for Paul when he was coaching at MB.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I hadn't seen him in like 20 years, and then when I got hurt at work, I was kind of bored, and all I could do was stand up. So I saw the Utica Yeti thing because I saw him at a Firewolves game. So I had my wife Facebook stalk him, and she saw the Utica Yeti stuff, and I reached out to him, and he was like, "Yeah, of course I remember you. Come on out." And I went and filmed a practice, and then started doing all this like 6 months ago, about March. Well, 8 months, 9 months now.
Well, there you go, and it's all worked out. It looks like.
Yeah, it's been a pretty good run, and it was crazy because I got to meet you because Paul he goes all in on everything. So not surprisingly, he had
Oh
you
yeah.
at the Battle of the Barge, and it was
Oh
funny
yeah.
because you sound so much different, like when you're talking to you, than you sound on the PA. That I didn't even really pick it up until I heard you on there, and the first time I heard you go, "Sully," I was like, "Yes." It was
That's it. That's the guy.
and then I was like, and then afterwards, that's when we talked together. I was like, okay, yeah, because we had so much going on setting up to begin with. I didn't really catch a lot of when Paul was introducing you, and it sucks because I do that so many times with people, and then I all of a sudden heard your voice, and I was like, okay, and then we've gotten to run into you a couple times. So, how did you get into this? Like, how did you get into broadcasting?
Well, I had always had an interest in broadcasting, even when I was a kid. When I was a sophomore in high school, um, I was at a girls' junior varsity basketball game. One of those games. It's like Thursday right after school, and I was there to support a friend of mine who was playing. And a guidance counselor gets on the microphone and says, "Hey, our regular PA announcer can't make it. Who wants to do it?" So one of my friends points to me and says, "Falvo will do it. He'll do it," kind of as a goof. And I said, "I'm going to do what now? I'm doing what?" And he kind of, just showed me what I needed to do. I took the mic and I just went. And a few days later, he comes back and he's like, "You did a really good job. Would you like to do the rest of our games?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure. Why not?" And then he also introduced me to a broadcast course at the Herkimer County BOCES. And I took that and I just fell in love with broadcasting. And I realized, it was something I had a talent for, something I was good at. So that's what I went for. And then I was able to continue that career in the Air Force as a member of the American Forces Network, covering news stories, shooting commercials, terrible commercials, by the way. If anybody ever wants to see how bad these commercials were, I mean, they're bad and they're cheesy, but in a great way. Um, if anybody ever wants to see them, you can go to YouTube and just look up AFN, F as in Frank, AFN commercials, and you'll be entertained for hours. And really, that's what I've made my career out of is broadcasting, producing, and so on. It just all kind of happened by happenstance, and the rest is history.
Yeah, that's crazy. And to find something in high school that you love so much, and to still be able to do it, and you can still hear the passion in your voice, like when you're doing it, and you see you during the games. That's one of my favorite things is watching people do like what they love, and then getting to talk to them about it, like how they got there. Because like broadcasting, PA announcing like you do is not something that you just take like a normal career path through. Like you have to really want to do it, and like your drive to always kind of be involved. Like how did you get involved with the Firewolves?
Well, I was a part of the Albany Empire of the Arena Football League, and I was their PA announcer for the 2 seasons that they were run before the league folded. And then when the Firewolves came to Albany, pretty much the same management that ran the Empire were running the Firewolves. George Manius, who, by the way, is a fantastic manager when it comes to sports. The man has two Stanley Cup rings with the Pittsburgh Penguins. He comes to Albany. He develops the Albany Empire. They do fantastic in their first season. Unfortunately, got bounced out in the first round of the playoffs that year. And then the next year, we win the final Arena Bowl in history. As a matter of fact, if I can brag just a little bit, And, I come away with one of these bad boys.
Oh, wow, that is sharp.
Oh yeah. And it's a small token of what I did, but it just shows that, that I was appreciated and it made me feel good. Um, and then when the Arena Football League folded and the Firewolves came into town, George developed the team and he pretty much brought the same staff he had with the Empire over to the Firewolves. And he contacted me and asked if I wanted to come back. And I said, absolutely. And I came back with the Firewolves and I'm still here. As a matter of fact, I'm always supporting the boys. Um, yeah, and that's pretty much how it happened. We carried over from the Albany Empire. We had a great front office with the Albany Empire, and we have a great front office with the Albany Firewolves now.
Yeah, I'm really impressed with what the Firewolves have done. I mean, I fell in love with it the first time I saw it. It was my first experience. We were down in the party zone. It was a little snowy that opening night, and the attendance I think kind of reflected that. New
Yeah.
new team, and then it was just a storm and like COVID testing and everything. Like
Oh yeah.
anything you could have thrown in the mix for them not to have that opening game, and somehow me and my wife were like, "Ah, we're going anyways. I don't care," because I
Yeah.
just wanted to see it, and I was like, "Oh my goodness!" And then we got down there, and wow, what a game to watch!
And the funny thing is, my exposure to box lacrosse had been very limited to that point. I mean, I had seen it on TV here and there. A couple of my friends played, and and truth be told, I never really gave it a second thought. I was kind of like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool, whatever. And then after the first game with the Firewolves last season, our very first game ever, I sat there and I had literally front row seat to everything happening. I mean, anybody that's been to a Firewolves game, I sit in between the penalty boxes. I'm on the boards. I'm literally a foot and a half away from the field. And seeing all the action happen at that level and hearing all the instructions from the players and the chirping in the penalty boxes, I said to myself, I am in love. This is amazing. And it was. And now every time, there's a National Lacrosse League game on TV, I'm watching. It doesn't matter who's playing. Obviously, I always watch watch my Firewolves when they're on the road. But I watch every game I can. And, we ran into each other at the Laxni up in Utica this past fall in September. And dude, I was in heaven. It was great. It was just a great experience.
Yeah, I was wicked excited. I couldn't believe we ended up being able to stream that. That was such a cool like that level of box lacrosse with all the pros out there and like you said. So unfortunately when we stream we're a little farther away and what a difference it does make though. So we've had party zone tickets which I love the Firewolves do that for people because like you want people to fall in love with the sport, you put them on the plexiglass and you actually get to feel how fast it is and like hear that ball hit the glass or even the players when they're smashing each other into it and you just like see how much faster it actually is than it looks on TV. It is absolutely insane. And I mean, for you, for Lax and I getting to sit out there and you guys had international teams. I mean, that must have been a wicked cool experience. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see any of those ones, but
We did. We had teams from Hungary, Israel came, Ireland was there. And really, it was to me, it astounded me the reach that lacrosse has, not just box lacrosse, but lacrosse in general. Talking to some of the players from the I hate to use the term foreign teams, but from the teams overseas is what I'll say. Talking to the players from the teams overseas and hearing their passion for the game and realizing, I live in a part of the country that essentially the game comes from. And, talking to people from Ireland and Israel and as far away as Hungary and talking about their love for the game, it just blew my mind. I thought it was amazing.
yeah, what flew my mind is I had never really seen box lacrosse. Even I grew up in South Glens Falls, 40 minutes north. I had heard of the attack, but I was in high school at the time. My parents just never brought me down there, so I never saw it. And I didn't understand what it was until that first Firewolves game. And it's a different level. And like you said, to watch these teams play it, and now there's in Prague and over in the Czech Republic, there's all these tournaments. There's guys flying over the Bank City, guys flying to Prague for the Frank Messenger Cup. Wow. And you want to talk about the that have you seen any of those rinks?
You know what? I haven't. And I do have to say that I was glad to see that the Czech Republic was still standing after the Bank City guys came home. Um, I want to say hi to my Bang City guys. Love you. I haven't, and you know what? I really want to go back and I really want to take a look at it because I'm at the point now where I want to learn as much about box lacrosse as I can. I want to be as familiar with it as I can. I never played lacrosse, and that is one thing that a lot of people they kind of raise an eyebrow at. They're like, "Well, you're an announcer. How do you announce lacrosse if you've never played?" And it's like, you know what? I surround myself with people who have played. I surround myself with guys on the Firewolves, Brett Manny, Dougie Jameson. I get to watch these guys play and see how the game is played. And I have great guys, to look up to as far as players go so that I can understand the game better. But I never played. I mean, I've had a couple lacrosse sticks. I played recreationally here and there, mostly wall ball, but I never played on an organized team. I'll be honest, I don't know the intricacies of an offense, what plays to run in certain situations, what positions a certain player has to fulfill and how they play that position. I don't know that. But that doesn't mean I still can't enjoy the game. I still can't be a part of the game in a way that I can be productive. And behind the microphone, getting the thousands of people in the MVP arena on their feet, screaming at the top of their lungs for the Firewolves is my way of contributing to the game.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think you give yourself enough credit. One thing I was going to say is you could tell like your cadences of when you're announcing, even though you say you don't understand the intricacies, you're almost better off because most of the fans there, I think you get a lot of people like my wife who like I played lacrosse and was really into it, but they know somebody who played or a kid plays and they love to go watch it. And it's better to have somebody like you who like what's exciting for everybody is that's what you're announcing. And like you said, you get everybody and the whole crowd going doggy after is just oh my goodness, it like the first time I heard like everybody doing it, just yeah. And it's impressive. We and especially at first everybody looked at us with the face paint and everything and they're like, what are you doing? But when I was talking to my wife, we went out to Buffalo and we were like, we got to try to bring this energy here. Like you
Oh,
could
yeah.
see the little kids once they see it, and really you only need one person to kind of be like, hey guys, this is what we're supposed to be doing, it's fun, let's scream, let's have a good time.
Yeah.
And wow, yeah, what a game! Even though they lost in that first game, I tell you, it was so entertaining. As far as like, if you yes, being a Firewolves fan, it was a little disappointing they lost, and it was like 14 goals. There was a couple goals where you're like D or Dougie or whatever you want to say,
Yeah.
but nope. I heard somebody tell me this once. If you ever play a perfect lacrosse game, hang your stick up because you'll never do it again. So you might as well just but I mean, wow, an entertaining game. And those guys, they leave their hearts out there. They are,
It was a tough game. It was a heartbreaker to say the least. I felt I was exhausted after the game was over. Watching, just trying to keep up with everything. And see, when I'm in the box, I have there's myself, and then there's the gentleman who keeps scores. He's kind of like he's also acts as my spotter. Really super nice guy, really good guy. And then we have the guy who operates the clock. They, thank goodness the microphone wasn't on because I was saying some pretty colorful stuff that would get me fired. Anybody from the Albany Firewolves front office watching this right now, I was a good boy. I'm not going to lie. But it was just so exciting, and I got so into the game that there were kind of moments where something would happen and it's like, oh, I have to work now. So I was, pick up the microphone and make my announcement. But it was a very tough game. The boys played their hearts out and you could see it in their faces at the end of the game. It was exhausting, but to me, in a good way. Like you watch a good movie or you listen to a great song and you just sit back and you're like, that's kind of how I felt. But
yeah.
th-
And you could see it on the Firewolves' faces, like you said, when they came out at first for the fans. And then as they were like looking around, you could see it. They were like, wow, look at all these kids. Like there was so many people. Albany, the Firewolves have done a great job as far as like all that goes. They always make sure, like, I don't know, they make it so inclusive, and all the Firewolves players are awesome. With the kids down there, like, my kids got pictures with Dougie and just everybody had a blast, and it was so cool. Like our kids really loved the fact that the Firewolves all told them thank you for painting their faces and we could hear you cheering. And that like meant the world to them. My nephew and my son and my daughter were like, you guys can actually hear us? And they're like, well, yeah, duh.
well, yeah.
And they were
I
just
mean,
yeah.
it's not soundproof. So
That's what I was laughing because they all looked at me like, Dad, they can actually hear you. I was like, I know, that's the point.
Yeah.
That's how this works as being a fan is I'm supposed to yell crazy stuff at the away team, and then after the game's over, like Connor Fields, I kept yelling every time he'd miss a shot or miss it at him, like that the game. Yeah.
Wow.
I'm gonna cut that part out too. I try to leave out all my Albany stuff just because I get a little carried away. Plus, I know how crazy goalies are, so I talk a lot of smack
Oh yeah.
to the goalies. And my nephew said he goes, I think we were responsible for two of those goals. I was like, if that's what you want to think, but okay, I'm pretty sure he's one of the best goalies in the league right now, and he is on fire. I mean,
Oh yeah.
wow, the fire. What about this offense though? Those like these younger guys they brought in, and then Tanner Thompson just kind of like doing his part and making sure it's so calm and organized for such a young group. Like the poise they play with out there is just yeah, it's been amazing to and you get like you said, you got that front row seat. It's
Man, I was very excited to watch the offense. I mean, I had the opportunity to sit there and kind of watch the guys warm up, and there were a lot of things I saw. There was a little bit more energy with this offense. There was a lot more communication. Not that there wasn't last season, but they seem to be more cohesive than they were last year. And you got to credit guys like like captains Brett Manny, and everybody else on the field, but also Coach Clark for getting these guys ready for the season. I think last season, we had kind of a short training camp because of COVID. Everything was just coming down from COVID. Things were just starting to open up. And I think that played a role in, kind of, I don't want to say hamstringing our offense, but because we had a decent offense last year. But I think if we had a little bit more time, we could have, jumped over the hump, so to speak. But this last Saturday against Rochester, they looked energized. They looked great. I mean, they came out like a ball of fire, and held Rochester, who is a damn good team this year. I'm not going to deny that. You can't deny that, really. No matter what team you play for or work for, they're a good team this year. However, I think we're better, and I will go on record in saying that. We're also going to be hurting this year. Joey Nardella is not with us this season. He's out with an injury, unfortunately. Um,
That's a
you know,
big loss. He was at the start of that first game, he was playing a lot of defense, which was new this year. He last year it's not that he didn't play defense, but he was on the floor. I don't know what the minutes were, but I know watching the game, it seemed like a lot more, and that was a really that's a tough loss. And like everybody always talks about whether or not faceoffs are that important, but I think the most underrated thing with Nardella is it's not that he gets 60%, it's that he gets the ones we need. Like the end of the game, he's going to get that face off. And that's where I think he's going to be missed the most. And yeah, like you said,
yeah.
it's a tough loss, but man, is yeah, I great. Hopefully he comes back next year ready to go. But like you said, I think more than just all the face-offs is those key moment face-offs that he was so good at.
And we lost a couple of big guns over in the off season. Benesh is now in Halifax.
On fire.
Yeah, and he's being, Benesh. He's doing Benesh things, as they say, like on ESPN. It's just Benesh being Benesh. He's having a fantastic season up in Halifax, and Resiteritz is down in Philadelphia, I believe. He
Yep.
went down to the Wings. He's doing, he's being Resiteritz. He's doing his thing. And, I'm very happy for those guys. But we miss him up here in Albany. And, hopefully they'll come back. But we picked up a few folks in the offseason ourselves. Heine Thompson came in, and he had a hell of a game the other night,
And I
making an immediate impact.
not just and I think the overrated thing with him is he's great when it comes to offense, and he had a hat trick. You can't take that away from him. But on defense, he was knocking. I don't know how many forced turnovers he had, or just the pressure he puts on to make the guy shoot. He's not one of these, and they all play the same way as brothers. Is they all are that on you, and it's just so nice to see because not all your offensive guys play that hard, and I think that's a huge thing this year with this young group is really, like you said, Brett Manny leading the charge, and Glenn Clark. I mean, props to him. He looks like a genius right now. I mean, everybody when they lost those guys, I was talking to a couple guys there was like Albany's offense is not going to be good, but wow, have they come up with some systems and really are kind of proving everybody wrong. And even in that game they lost, they still showed they could score.
I mean, I even said, when I saw those trades happen, or when I saw those deals happen, I was texting with with a colleague of mine who works with the Firewolves, and I was like, oh my God, we lost Banesh, we lost Recitaritz, and they're like, all
Q.
right, don't sweat it. We're working on it. We got it. We got this. And not to discredit Banesh and Recitaritz, I think we do have it. Those guys were a big part of the Firewolves, and we're definitely going to miss them. But we were able to fill those gaps, I think. And with any team that has new members of an offense, regardless of what game you play, baseball, basketball, football, whatever, it's going to take some time for the new faces, for the new elements to mesh. And I think we're going to hit a point sometime this season. We're in the Firewolves are in game number 2. We just finished game number 2 because we had the bye week, not this last weekend, the weekend before. I think mid-season, the Albany Firewolves are going to be one of the scariest, if not the scariest team in the National Lacrosse League.
Hands down, I think. I mean, if you look at the way the defense was clicking last year, and yes, Dardella's out, and we lost the one other. I forgot his name, and I'm sorry about that. But we lost one other defenseman, and Forrester came in, and he's playing great. But we held Buffalo to 8 goals at the end of last year.
Yes,
That
we did. And not a lot of teams can do that.
No, and again, we showed, at the beginning of the year, they held Buffalo to 10. And yes, they almost came back, but they were getting the stops they needed. And that's where I think Albany's defense, that pressure, they are the way they play as a team, because that style doesn't work everywhere. But with Dougie and that, the way they play is just it's so fun to watch. I'm a big defensive guy, so I love those fast transition goals and I love watching the setups and the way they really do it. And I think the most underrated thing with the Firewolves is their ability to slide and put pressure on. Their
Yes.
communication, their defense, their core defense with Colton Watkinson, Brett Manny, Tchaikovsky, Nishimura, or yeah, Jackson Nishimura.
Yep.
Those guys are, it's amazing. Greg Downing. I mean, you're leaving people out because you can take any one of the Firewolves defensive guys for the most part, and they're going to be a starting defenseman anywhere you put them. And their whole team is
Exactly.
built like that.
Exactly. Exactly. And I'm looking forward to the rest of the season. Like I said, right now we just played our second game. Most teams are getting ready to play game 4, but like I said, we had the bye week, so we're playing catch up a little bit. But I think mid-season we're going to be one of the teams to beat in the National Lacrosse League, no question.
Yeah, hands down. I think we've showed it so far. I think Rochester right now is the team in the East because they beat us, and I think honestly we're number 2, and I think they're going to show it as we go along, like you said.
Yep.
And then I mean, this is how good they're playing now. As this team offense gets better and better, I think it's going to be really something to see.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
and I think I getting rid of those guys. You had a lot of guys that like to watch them. It was
Oh yeah.
kind of like when you've got that all-star level, you're just like constantly, okay, give the ball to Recitaris, give the ball to Recitaris, give the ball to Banesh, get the ball over to Q. Like that was their focus. And now really having, like I said, Tanner Thompson, I think is one of the more underrated players in the NLL. The way he's kind of stepped up with this offense and being there for now his second year yeah, I don't think he came from New England, but he might have. But it's just the way, I don't know, the way he's kind of filling that and helping them all kind of mesh together is just crazy.
Absolutely. And you've got a great group of leaders on that team, starting with Brett Manny and everybody on down the line. Brett has really taken control of the team in a very good way. And you can see it on the field. You can see it in the box. He takes control of that team and, he's full speed ahead, 100 miles an hour. And that's one thing that I really love about watching Brett play.
He is. But speaking of somebody who's full speed 100 miles an hour, you, sir, you do everything. You're commentating MMA, you're commentating Firewolves games, you're doing New Albany. How do you have time to breathe most of the time, let alone fit somebody like me into your schedule?
I don't breathe. That's the thing. No, that's right, man. It was about 2017 that I really decided that I wanted to start taking announcing seriously and really pursue it. And ever since then, we're going into 2023. So it's been 5-6 years. I've accumulated so much experience and I've had a lot of great people to look up to, a lot of great announcers, not just box lacrosse, but boxing, mixed martial arts. This last this last fall, I called my first Muay Thai event in Queens, and it was fantastic. It was just such an awesome experience. But the beautiful part about doing this is I have a lot of great people that I can reach out to. Like, I actually stood in for a gentleman by the name of Michael Hansen. If anybody's never heard of him, get online, look at his stuff. He is a fantastic ring announcer. My buddy Christian Schmidt down in Texas, one of my very good friends, very good colleagues as an announcer. Ralph Velez out west, he does a lot of work in Phoenix, Arizona, but he announces for Floyd Mayweather. He travels with Floyd, with Money Mayweather. I mean, he's announced events in Japan. I mean, he actually announced a match. You know that the hotel in Dubai, the one that looks like a sail?
Yeah.
I can't think of the name of it. It's going to drive me nuts. They have the helipad on top of the hotel. He announced a fight from that helipad.
Wow. That's got to
Who
be.
the hell does that except Ralph? And he's fantastic at what he does, you know, and I have a great core of folks that I can fall back on. And, you know, I've picked up experience, mixed martial arts, boxing, box lacrosse, arena football, field lacrosse, Albany. I have a championship with the Albany Patroons of the basketball league, their minor league basketball team. I mean, it's been a whirlwind the last 5 years, and I can't be any more grateful for anybody that I've worked with, everybody that I've worked with, even pro wrestling. I'm very involved in pro wrestling. Yes, I'm a pro wrestling fan. I will admit it. I've got a championship belt sitting right over here. So I try to get experience anywhere that I can get it, but also that experience helps me on the mic because I have those different styles that I use that I can incorporate. So like if I were to announce a box lacrosse game, it is 100% completely different from a mixed martial arts fight, or it's completely different from a boxing match or basketball or whatever. But I can take those styles, I can take that experience, and I can use it to hone my skill and develop. Like you said, I have a certain cadence when I announce. I mean, that all comes from years of practice. You know, I'm the guy, they tell you one of the best ways to practice public speaking is what? You get in front of a mirror and you do it. That's what I do. Like I'm in the car with my daughter and I'll start calling out weights and hometowns and fighting out of, you know, Detroit, Michigan and so on and so on. And she's just like, Dad, really?
It's yeah, there's nothing. I tell my kids this all the time. There's nothing that replaces doing. I don't care
Oh,
what.
exactly.
You can watch a million YouTube videos, you can read a bunch of books, but nothing. And like you said, just being comfortable enough to do it when you're in the car, when you're like sitting by yourself. Yeah, when I first started doing these podcasts, I was terrible at talking to people. I always wanted to talk over them. I asked too many
Right.
questions. It's like, and that's my biggest problem is I'll ask like 3 or 4 questions in a row, and then I'm just like, okay. But
I mean, I even get a lot of support from unlikely places. I work a lot with, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with mixed martial arts or UFC, Dan Mergliotta.
oh, okay.
He is a ref. He's one of the referees.
Yeah.
I announce for Cage Wars out of here in Schenectady, and he's a referee. And he comes down all the time, and him and I talk. You know, he's like, well, and it's really cool because if I ever have a question, I'll ask him the question, and he always starts with, well, what Buffer does, and he tells me like how Bruce Buffer would handle it. And it's like, okay, you know, that's great. I'll take that and put it in the back of my mind, but I make it my own because that's the best way to succeed. Behind the microphone is you take what you have in front of you and make it your own. Be genuine. Don't try to be the next Bruce Buffer, Michael Buffer, Jimmy Lennon, or whomever. Be the first you, and that's what I try to do. I try to make everything that I do. I try to make it my own.
Yeah, I love it. And you definitely do. Like I said, as soon as you got on the microphone, I knew I was like, okay, this is a Firewolves announcer. And it was so funny because I talked to you for probably 15, 20 minutes before the game started. And then all of a sudden I got up there and I was like, oh my God, that's a Firewolves announcer. Excuse me. My wife was dying
No, you're
laughing at me. Um, I would, I actually am a big jiu-jitsu, mixed martial arts. I'm blue belt myself. I love it all. A
Mhm.
couple of my buddies have fought down in that Cage Warriors. I've never actually made it down there. I've got to one of these days. I bet you're good at that, but I am not a pro wrestling guy at all. I would love to see you do. I would go just to listen to you because like that is more like you're more involved in that. Like in the game, you add to the game. In wrestling, you're part of the game.
Yeah, you're part of the show. And, for those of you that, may have a negative image of professional wrestling, that's okay. That's fine. Everybody, has their own opinions or whatever. I enjoy it. It's fun. But it's like it's a camaraderie, it's a brotherhood, everybody that has stepped in the ring, we have a great deal of respect for each other, and it shows.
It doesn't. It's like any other sport as far as I mean the athletes that are involved are putting it all out there. It's full of people like you and the athletes that truly love it. Like you didn't become this good at wrestling because you didn't drive all over the place and do some small backyard things or you're out in Utica. That's I mean it's the miles and the experience and you hear it when you and now like it's funny because now like I watch stuff and I'll hear you in the background. And I'm like, oh, that's Mike. And
And the great part about being an announcer is that it takes you to so many different places. I mean, I announced in front of 25 people, 25 people at a VFW here in Rome, or not here in Rome, here in Albany. I'm sorry. Um, and then 2 weeks later, I'm announcing in front of 13,000 at the MVP arena for an arena football game. It's wild, but it's experience regardless of who you're announcing in front. If I'm announcing in front of 25, I try to sound like I'm announcing in front of 25,000. And that's the way to do it. I actually had the opportunity to chat with Michael C. Williams. He's the ring announcer for Bellator Mixed Martial Arts. And one of the things that he told me, and I try to envision this every time I pick up the mic, he goes, every time you pick up that mic, imagine you're in Madison Square Garden in front of a full house. He goes, even if you're in your mother's kitchen announcing for the cat, you're in Madison Square Garden in front of, 20,000 people. And that's what I try to do.
yeah, and it's funny because I'm not nearly as good on that. I do better with these conversation things, I think, because I'm pretty good at talking to people. But the color or the play-by-play when I do it, I get so excited watching the games that I have a hard time not screaming, especially box lacrosse. I think I'd probably do
Oh,
better
yeah.
with something that I'm not as into, but like I love it, and the I get carried away sometimes. I yell a little loud, and the microphone stand. Steven Stamp, I got a chance to work with him at Laxnai. I
Hmm.
learned I learned more in that 2, 3 days with him than I had in calling like so many other games. And like I love Paul and I love Bob, and I think what we do is very different from what I did at Lax Night. I think what we
Yeah.
do is like it's so much fun and it works really well for us because of the Yeti group and it's what everybody gets on the chats and everybody's a part of it. Whereas like the Lax Night and like we had to really like humble ourselves, me and Charity, to kind of just listen to every critique and just sit there and like know that we're working, you know, as hard as we possibly can and we did basically 2 weeks worth of work in 3 days and then sat there and got critiqued the first 3 games and it was just like so defeating. But then by the end of it, when we started to, like you said, get the experience, you spend more time doing it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm doing color with Steven Stamp, who's called play by play and some of the biggest box lacrosse. Yeah, it was just a really cool. Yeah, you gotta do like you said it. I mean, when you drive out to Utica, you're not making that trip just because. I mean, it's not like you're making an exorbitant amount of money to go do Paul a favor and call the Yeti games, but it's so awesome because it's such an experience for you. It makes it special for the players and like people like me who show up and we're filming and I'm like, oh my god, that's Mike
Yeah.
Falvo. It's like,
Yeah. That whole night, when Paul contacted me, I had put up a Facebook post about announcing in the Adirondack Bank Center, which is the Utica Auditorium, the arena in Utica. I had made a post, I will announce in this building one day because that's my hometown arena, almost like manifesting my future, if you will. A couple of weeks later, Paul shot me a message. He goes, so about that Facebook post, dot, dot, dot. He didn't have to ask me. I just said, yes, when, where. And we made it work. We made it happen. And I got to come up and call the game for the Yeti guys. And I loved it. I loved every second of it. And I can't thank Paul. I can't thank Tony. I can't thank everybody in the Yeti organization for making me feel welcome, for making that night special for me, because that was a seminal night for me, announcing in my hometown arena. Granted, it wasn't a full house, but still,
it's
I got to announce for a great group of guys in the Utica Yeti, but also, we played Oswego that night. They were a great team. It was a good game, and they played really hard, and it was just a fun experience all around.
Yeah, it's the odd every time. So I got to play college hockey in the odd, and I cannot walk into that building. And I mean, Slapshot was filmed there.
Oh
I,
yeah,
I played college there. Now I'm watching this. It's just such a I love the odd, and that's the Nexus Center is great, and I absolutely love it. It's gorgeous and it's new, but it's not the odd.
right.
It's different. I still get that feeling every time I walk into the odd. I don't know. It's something about the smell. Every time I walk in, I get the like goosebump feeling. Like I want to get on the ice and I want to go as hard as I can. I
Well,
can't anymore, but
from what I've heard, they still haven't figured out what that smell is. So I don't know. No, I agree with you. I mean, when I was a kid, my dad used to bring us there to see the WWF. As a matter of fact, my first pro wrestling event ever when I was 8 years old was in that building. And, it's just, there's something about it. You walk in, and yes, it's a small town arena, 4,000 people. It's not Madison Square Garden, it's not the MVP arena, but it has that charm. It has that small arena charm. And the way that they've rebuilt it and renovated it, it looks absolutely beautiful. The Utica Comets, Rob Esch, everybody in that organization have done wonders for that building and for the city of Utica. So, I doubt they're listening, but Rob, thank you. For bringing the Comets back into Utica and showing the world that Utica is a sports town.
yeah, that's one thing. Like you said, I doubt he listens, but Rob Esch, I thank him all the time. He's from Whitesboro, I believe, right? Or is it New Hartford?
Yeah, no, he's a hometown boy. He made his way to the National Hockey League and then he came home, and he is the glue that holds Utica sports together, in my opinion. Uh,
They used to hang like I used to play there. We would practice there sometimes, but I can remember being a kid and going in, and they had the big picture of Rob Esch when you walked in, and it was
oh
so
yeah,
like, oh wow, all right, he's from
he,
here.
he was like the hometown boy that made good. But don't forget there was a certain goalie from New Jersey, a guy I can't think of his name, but what Marty something or other, Brodeur. I don't know. I'd never heard of the guy. He got his career started with the Utica Devils back in the I want to say early to mid '90s. I remember going to watch Martin Brodeur play when he was coming up in the league. A friend of mine actually lived a few houses down from where he lived, just random side street in Utica, New York, and there's Martin Brodeur walking out the door going to hockey practice. I mean, it was crazy, but it was a great experience altogether.
Yeah, see, I grew up right by the Glens Falls Civic Center, so we had the
Yeah.
Red Wings when we were younger, and
Hmm.
being a kid and like I've still got a Norm Miracle stick signed in my garage. Like I loved the AHL when Adirondacks team was here and Detroit was dominating was such a special time for me because I was like 12 years old, 10, 12 years old, and they were just phenomenal going up
Oh
through.
yeah.
So, and we were the stick boys. I literally lived 2 blocks away from the Civic Center, so we could walk down there all the time. So, getting the broken sticks and just getting to meet all those guys, like you said, those small town rinks with the AHL players that are going to be the pros. And that's where I think, like this new PBLA, I think they were really smart
Yes.
going for those style markets. And I think if they can afford to float a couple of years while these towns get used to the teams, I think it's going to be huge.
Oh, so do I. So do I. I the PBLA released some of the rosters today. I was looking at some of the rosters for the teams that came out. I think I saw Syracuse, I saw Binghamton. I haven't. I was really looking for Elmira. I haven't seen Elmira yet. I haven't seen Thousand Island. I haven't seen theirs yet. I really want to see theirs. Hi, Nathan. By the way, um, Thousand Island Spirits, and there's a few familiar names on the Binghamton roster, and I'm like, I said his name last season. I said his name last season. I said his name last season. And it's great to see these guys still playing, but they're bringing the game to a market that may not be overly familiar with it, maybe relatively new. Maybe they're looking for a bigger team. Maybe they want a National Lacrosse League team at some point down the road. This is a great opportunity, not just for the players of the PBLA to show that they can be in the National Lacrosse League, but also these cities that say, maybe Syracuse one day will come down and say, you know what, we want an NLL team.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah, I think that's like you said, that's a great point that I hadn't even really thought of. I just was so like as soon as they started announcing the cities, all I could think about was when I was a kid going to the Red Wings games because a lot of these guys are going to be there. So and the Yeti also have another guy who made the Hampton Hammerheads team. Blaine Stotler, he's down there. So
Hmm.
yeah, they got a couple guys all over the place, and it's really impressive what the NABLL has done. If you look at these
Oh yeah.
rosters, is
Oh yeah.
they all have a ton of players. The Golden Bears have 13 or 14 players that
Hmm.
made it. The Eels have a bunch of players that made it, and like you said, we got kind of lucky getting to see it all this summer. And some of these
Yeah, we did.
games, these guys are going to be, it's going to be impressive.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Uh, I what I really wanted to know though, so what do you do like full time? You work at the Capitol, right?
Yes, I work for the New York State Assembly. I'm what's called a media coordinator. So basically, what happens is, we have 155 members of the New York State Assembly, and they come from all over New York State, New York City, here in Albany, out west Buffalo, Rochester, and so on. But even we get members that come from the North Country, that come down from Messina, and so on. So when they're here in Albany, if they have any audiovisual needs while they're here, they come to my office and we take care of it. We'll do interviews. A lot of times, if you see a very quick interview of a member talking about a specific bill or a specific topic, that's most likely come from me. Um, but also, anybody who watches the New York State Legislative Channel, which is our version of C-SPAN, that is broadcast from my office. That is beamed out to the stars from my office. Just as a matter of fact, today we held a session and, I'm in the control room watching everything happen. And, we control all the cameras in the chamber. We control, the sound, the audio. And it's just, I mean, I'm a TV guy by trade, but watching that stuff as it happens always blows my mind. I don't care where I am, who I'm working with. But yeah, my experience, my 9 to 5, as I like to call it, is media relations, public relations, a little bit of government relations here and there. So it's a very unique, very interesting job.
Yeah, and that's it seems uniquely suited to you, kind of like the PA announcing. And like you said, they definitely I could see them go hand in hand because you are great out there. Next time there's a wrestling event in Albany or anywhere in the area that you're commentating, I'm going. I really
Absolutely.
I would love to see you in action. I think especially in that setting, I can imagine that's got to be like, you're real like, oh my God, here we are. Like the
Yeah.
energy that you're allowed to bring into there has got to be pretty cool.
One thing that I love to do is I love feeding off of the fans, no matter where I am, what I'm calling, and I love the Albany Firewolves fans. They are so passionate about this team. They're passionate about the game. And we are in our second season. We're building a culture here in Albany. We're building that Firewolf culture. And we're getting there. I've always said I would love to have the fan base that Buffalo has. I would love to have Bandit Land here in Albany. The Bandits have been around
Long time.
decades.
Yeah.
They've been around for decades.
They've
They're one.
they've been around longer than the league has. They've survived
Yeah.
multiple leagues.
And they have the most amazing fan base. And I'm not taking anything away from our guys, but even when the Bandits came to Albany last year,
That
an
was
entire quarter of the arena was black and orange wigs, the Buffalo Bandit flags. I even think I saw someone unfurl like just a big tapestry that cascaded down the bleachers. And I said to myself, huh, I like that. And that's the kind of culture we're trying to build here in Albany. And we have a great group of fans. I want to say hi to Albany superfan Paulie Walnuts. He is an amazing guy. He is an amazing guy. And I love meeting the fans. I love meeting the fans. I love meeting the kids, moms, dads, players, ex-players, current players, coaches. I mean, to me, it's just I have fun, legitimate fun. And I try to impart that on the crowd because I want them to have fun too. Because they've spent their hard-earned money to come see these guys play, but not just see these guys play. They've come they've come for an experience. And that's what I try to give. That's what we try to give them with the Albany Firewolves is a great experience for their money's worth.
it's actually my favorite part about the Firewolves is I'm into lacrosse. I would go either way.
Right.
My kids, they could care less, but you guys make it such an experience down there. Like you said, P Walnuts. That everybody knows that guy. He's got this jersey on. He's down on the glass.
Oh
He's
yeah.
banging. Yeah. After the first game I went to, I was like, that's a fan. Like
Oh yeah.
you,
Oh
you
yeah.
could tell he is all in. I love it. We sat behind him one game because we bounced around to try to figure out where we wanted our season tickets. And yeah, he is absolutely insane. And like I said, one of the big things I wanted to say to you is thank you so much, though, because like the way you guys treat, our kids see themselves on the jumbotron, the way you guys get them yelling, and the way that you start the group chants kind of makes it more comfortable for kids that are a little shyer. So like when
Oh
you
yeah.
yell Dougie, then all of a sudden the kids, you'll hear them Dougie, and it's like,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
It's part of what makes it an experience. We want to make it unique. We want to make it fun. And the guys do their part on the field and they make it fun, they make it exciting, high scoring games, fast paced games. I never realized how fast paced box lacrosse was until I actually sat, on the boards and I'm watching it. But we try to do everything we can to give the fans their money's worth. We understand that these are hard working moms and dads. We understand times are tough everywhere. And this is not me being political. I mean, it's just a fact of life at the moment.
mhm,
Things are tough. And if I look at it this way, if somebody is willing to pay their hard-earned money to, whether they come to watch the game or they come to listen to me, which would be awesome, uh, you know, we want them to leave with a smile, regardless of what the score says at the end of the game. We want them to leave with a smile and say, you know what? We had a great time.
yeah. No, like I said, I don't think my kids care what the score is. They're
Yeah,
there, they're there cheering and having fun, and I really don't even know. They could not tell you who won or lost that game, probably. They
actually, exactly.
they just go and have a blast. Well, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And I will definitely see you down there again. And yeah, I don't know, it's been a wild ride. And I'll cut this part.